I didn't find out from Claire. I found out from a goddamn venue change notification for my own divorce signing. The email landed in my inbox at 9:14 on a Tuesday. Due to scheduling conflicts with the McCready side, the final settlement meeting has been moved from Henderson Page to O'Malley's Steakhouse. Private dining room. McCready, as in Uncle Dale's boy, Logan McCready, my cousin by marriage, partner in the family's logistics firm, and the guy who used to crash on my couch when his condo was in escrow. I called Claire. She didn't pick up. She texted back 3 minutes later. Can we just keep this civil? Logan's driving me. The parking at Henderson is a nightmare anyway. Logan wasn't even trying to be subtle anymore. I showed up at O'Malley's 20 minutes early and ordered a bourbon I wasn't going to drink. My dad, Richard Hale, walked in at exactly 10 after 10 with Mom trailing him. They weren't alone. Dale McCready was already there, laughing too loud with Logan, clapping him on the back like they just closed a freight contract instead of a cuckolding. Claire sat between them, wearing the Cartier watch I bought her for our anniversary 2 months before she filed. Dad saw me standing by the hose stand and did that thing where he straightened his tie like he was walking into a boardroom. Ethan, good. We shifted things because Dale said what? I cut in. My voice didn't shake. That part surprised me. That it'd be easier if you all pretended this isn't exactly what it looks like. Mom stepped in fast, smoothing the air with both hands the way she does when a client gets heated at one of her charity galas. Don't do this here. Honey, nobody's pretending anything. We're just being practical. Logan was kind enough to facilitate the conversation with Claire's counsel. Facilitate. I repeated. Right. He facilitated her out of my bed and into his BMW. Logan finally stood up. He had the nerve to look embarrassed, which would have been funny if it wasn't so insulting. Ethan, man, come on. You and Claire were already separated. The divorce was inevitable. Don't make it weird for everyone. Weird, I said. You're banging my soon-to-be ex-wife 6 weeks after she left, and I'm making it weird. Claire finally looked at me then. No makeup, which was new. She used to say she didn't sleep without a full routine. Maybe Logan liked the low-maintenance version. Ethan, please. Logan's been supportive. Your parents just want us all to stop bleeding money on lawyers. My lawyer, I said, looking right at Dad, is charging me $4.50 an hour to negotiate a settlement you already told me last week you'd help cover. Where's that stand now? Dad cleared his throat. Well, Dale and I had a talk. Given the McCready stake in Hale McCready, our names first. I said, given the business climate. Dad pushed through. It's in everyone's best interest if we consolidate the legal wrap-up. Logan agreed to let Claire use the family retainer for the final filing. Saves us all a headache. I laughed. It came out dry and mean. You gave her my family's legal retainer to use against me. It's not against you, Mom said, too gently. It's just paperwork now. You don't even want the house in Covington. You said yourself. I said I didn't care about the house. I said, I care that you asked me to keep quiet about why she left so it wouldn't embarrass the brand. Dale finally decided to earn his stake. He leaned forward, elbows on the table, wedding ring catching the light. Ethan, son, you're taking this real personal. Logan didn't poach anybody. Claire's a grown woman. If you tended the marriage instead of those 12-hour days at the yard, maybe we wouldn't be mediating a pissing match right now. Claire didn't correct him. She just sipped her sparkling water. Tend the marriage, I said, staring at her. Is that what you told him? That I worked too much while you were blowing my cousin? Ethan, Mom snapped. Logan held up a hand, like a peacemaker. Okay, that's enough. Claire doesn't need to sit here and get dragged. She doesn't? I asked. She needed to sit here and use our lawyer. But she doesn't need to hear how this actually went down. Dad stepped between us, literally physically stepping sideways to block me from the table. We're signing the papers today, he said flatly. Clean split, 50-50 on the liquid assets. You keep your shares in the operating LLC. Claire keeps the Covington place and the car. Logan and Dale have agreed to fast-track the non-compete waiver. So you don't have to worry about the Atlanta route. Everyone walks away whole. Everyone, I echoed, except me. You're walking away with 7 figures. Dale muttered, don't play victim. Kid, I'm 31. I said, not a kid. And I'm not signing anything drawn up by a retainer you handed to the woman who cheated on me with your son. Claire finally spoke, voice low and careful. Ethan, if you stall this, it gets ugly. Your dad's right. This is just business now. Let it go. I looked at her for a long second. The girl who used to cry if I forgot to text her when I got home from the yard. The girl who said she wanted a baby by 30. Now, she was negotiating asset splits across a steakhouse table with the guy she replaced me with. And my parents were nodding along like it was a quarterly earnings call. You know what's funny? I said, addressing the whole table. Last month, Dad called me to ask if I'd co-signed the line of credit for the Savannah expansion. Said family comes first. Said blood matters. And it does. Dad said quickly. Too quickly. Logan's not blood. I said, but Dale is. Mom said, almost pleading. And the firm is. And Claire's practically still family. Don't blow up your life over pride. Ethan, you'll regret it when the dust settles and you've alienated people who actually care about you. There it was. The pivot. The gentle little shove that made it my fault if I didn't smile and sign. I pulled the folder my lawyer had sent over out of my bag, dropped it on the table unopened. I'm not signing the family version. I said, you want a clean split? Fine. But Claire doesn't touch the Covington equity. And she sure as hell doesn't touch the McCready-Hale vendor accounts. You want to consolidate retainers? Do it. I'll see you in court. And I'll depose every one of you under oath about when this started. Text logs, travel receipts, the works. Logan smirked. You'd really torch the firm over hurt feelings? Watch me. I said, Dad's face went that particular shade of red. He gets right before he pulls rank. Don't be stupid. You don't have the leverage. The board meets Thursday. Dale and I control the voting trust. Then vote. I said, see what happens when I walk into yard tomorrow and tell the union steward why their profit sharing just got leverage to protect a guy who couldn't keep his dick out of my marriage. Silence. Heavy, expensive silence. Claire stood up, grabbing her purse. This is exactly why I left. She said, you always have to make everything a fight. No, I said, you left because you wanted the lifestyle without the work. And Logan was happy to play tour guide. My parents just made sure you got a golden parachute for it. Mom reached for my arm. I stepped back. Ethan, don't do this to us. She whispered, you're embarrassing yourself. Funny, I said, that's exactly what I was about to say to you. I walked out before anyone could frame it as me storming off. The valet took 5 minutes to bring the truck around, long enough that Dad followed me out to the sidewalk, Dale hovering behind him like a shadow with a steak knife. You're making a spectacle. Dad hissed. Logan was trying to smooth this over, so Claire didn't push for spousal. Spousal. I repeated, Jesus, you think I give a shit about the money? You give a shit about respect. Dad shot back. And right now you're showing none to your mother, to Dale, or to basic family loyalty. Loyalty, I said, looking past him to where Claire was leaning into Logan's shoulder in the restaurant doorway. You keep using that word. Every time you use it. You mean mine. You mean I owe it to you to swallow this and smile if you walk away from this table like this. Dad said, voice dropping, don't expect the door to stay open while you cool off. We're not doing the silent treatment routine this time. You burn this. You live with it. I looked at him, really looked at him. Same jaw I used to think meant integrity. Turns out it just meant stubborn when it suited him. I'm not cooling off. I said, Dad blinked. Don't be dramatic. Not dramatic. I said, just done. He opened his mouth, probably to tell me about the board, or the trust, or how I was throwing away a legacy. But I didn't wait for the speech. I got in my truck, threw it in reverse, and watched him shrink in the rear view. My phone buzzed before I hit the light at Peachtree. Mom, your father is very disappointed. Call Logan and apologize for the language. We can still fix this before Thursday. I didn't answer. Another text. 2 minutes later. Claire, you made this so much harder than it had to be. Logan thinks there's still a way to keep you on the ops side if you just drop the attitude. I turned the phone face down on the passenger seat and kept driving. Thursday was 2 days away. Let them have their board meeting. Let them see what no leverage actually looks like. The Hale McCready quarterly board meeting isn't technically a legal proceeding, but my grandfather wrote the bylaws, so it feels like church. No phones on the table. No interrupting the chair. Dad opens with a prayer half the time. Thursday morning. Nobody prayed. I walked into conference room at 8:50. Dale was already posted up by the coffee station, shaking hands with Marissa Cho from accounting like nothing had shifted. Logan sat in the far corner on his laptop, not even bothering to look up. Claire wasn't there, which was smart. Dad didn't want to push his luck in front of the outside directors. Victor Lang, our outside counsel, and the only guy in the room who bills more than he earns, nodded at me from the head of the table. Ethan, good to see you. Wish I could say the same. I said, pulling out my chair. Dad entered a beat later, briefcase in one hand, jaw tight. He didn't greet me, just tapped the gavel once, more habit than authority now, and passed out the agenda packets. Standard items first. Dad said, Q2 margins, Savannah port update. Then we'll move to the equity note. Marissa cleared her throat. Actually, Richard, before we run margins, Logan asked me to circulate a revised org chart addendum under new business. Logan finally closed his laptop and slid a second packet down the table, thicker than the agenda, printed on cream stock, which told me Dale paid for rush design. Org chart? I said. Logan didn't look at me. Operational restructuring. Given the, transition in personal dynamics, we felt it best to clarify reporting lines, so there's no friction moving forward. I flipped the packet open. There it was in bold, effective immediately. E. Hale will transition from co-director of yard operations to senior advisor. Strategic accounts. No direct reports. No yard access. No voting weight on op spend. You demoted me. I said. Reassigned. Dale corrected smoothly. Temporary. Pending the divorce finalization. Conflict of interest mitigation. Victor adjusted his glasses. Richard, you didn't clear this with Ethan's counsel? We're clearing it now. Dad said, not looking at Victor, looking at me, like he was doing me a favor. Ethan, this protects you. You step back from day to day. Let Logan handle the yard. And we keep the union from sniffing around internal drama. Internal drama. I repeated. That's what we're calling sleeping with my wife. Ex-fiancé. Logan muttered. Divorce isn't finalized. I said, she's still legally my wife. And you're still legally a conflict of interest. Logan, not me. Marissa shifted in her seat. She hated this. Marissa had backed my play on the Savannah cold storage rollout. She knew I ran the numbers better than anyone in the room. Dad slid a pen across the table toward me. Signed the acknowledgement. You keep your base. You keep the dividend structure from the original hire letter. Nobody's freezing you out financially. You're freezing me out of the company I helped build while you hand the keys to the guy who blew up my marriage. I said, and you wanted to sign a piece of paper saying I'm cool with it. I want you to act like a professional. Dad said, voice low, for once. That landed heavier than I expected. Not because it stung, because it confirmed he'd rehearsed it. I leaned back. Fine, let's talk dividends. Then, since we're being professional, Victor, page for the partnership agreement. Am I right that any material change to an officer's title requires a supermajority vote, not a breakfast room ambush? Victor hesitated. Technically, yes, a supermajority of the voting trust. Dale scoffed. The voting trust is Richard and me. Ethan, don't play junior associate with us. You're right, I said. You two hold the trust, which means Dad can ram this through today if he wants. But I tapped the packet, the strategic accounts payout clause attached here. That's new. Where'd the 20% haircut come from? Logan straightened. That's standard for advisory roles. You're not carrying overhead anymore. Bullshit. I said, you rewrote the comp tier, so Claire's buyout doesn't dent the operating cash flow. You're funding her Covington equity off my cut. Silence again. Victor looked at Dad. Dad didn't blink. She's keeping the house. Dad admitted. It's cleaner this way. Cleaner for who? For the firm. Dad said, and for your mother. Who hasn't slept since Tuesday because her son decided to make a vendetta out of a bad breakup? Bad breakup. I said. I actually smiled, because if I didn't, I was going to flip the table. Claire called you crying last night. Didn't she? Dad didn't answer. She texted me. I went on. Said Logan thought I could stay on the ops side if I dropped the attitude. That was 24 hours ago. Now Logan's rewriting my employment status to bankroll her house. Real clean. Logan stood. You know what, man? I tried. I really did. I told Dale we should have just waited you out. But no, we tried to bring you in soft. And you're still grandstanding. Grandstanding is sending a revised org chart to the board before the ink is dry on a divorce. I said, disloyalty is fucking my wife in the guest cabin at Waccamaw and charging the gas to the company card. Marissa choked on her coffee. Dad slammed the gavel once. Hard. Enough. You asked me to act like a professional. I said, professionally, I'm invoking Article 9. Material demotion without mutual consent triggers a buyout election. Victor, read him the clause. Victor winced. He pulled the bylaws out of his leather folio, flipping pages with the energy of a man who hates being put in the middle. Section 9. For, he murmured, in the event of an involuntary title change to a founder-class employee, said employee may elect a liquidity payout equal to 2 times trailing EBITDA attribution, or demand a special shareholder vote to dissolve the voting trust. Dale went pale. He's not a founder. My name's on the Articles of Incorporation. I said, signed in '09. Dad, remember? Right after Granddad died, and you brought me in from Georgia Tech to digitize the dispatch logs? Founder class. Ask Victor. Victor would meet Dale's eyes, which was basically a confession. Dad rubbed the bridge of his nose. Ethan, you don't want to force a liquidity event. You know what that does to our credit facility. I know exactly what it does. I said, it freezes new hiring, kills the Savannah expansion you begged me to co-sign, and makes the bank very interested in why the Hale side of the house is suddenly litigious. You wanted to moat me quietly? Cool. I'll take the payout and walk. Or we undo Logan's little org chart and keep things exactly as the bylaws say. You're holding a gun to the firm. Dale said, no. I said, I'm reading the paperwork your lawyer drafted. Feels different when someone else knows how to read, doesn't it? Logan pointed at me. This is exactly why Claire left you. You weaponize everything. She told you that line? I asked, or did you write it together? I want a recess. Dad said, denied. I said, mirroring his own old boardroom joke back at him. You said standard items first. We're on new business. Let's vote. Victor cleared his throat. Richard, given the 9 for a trigger. I strongly advise against pushing the reassignment today. It exposes a trust to a derivative suit. Dad glared at Victor like he defected. Then he looked at me. For a second, just a blink. He looked like the guy who used to show up at my little league games. Then it passed. Withdraw the org chart. Dad said tightly to Dale. Logan, sit down. Logan's mouth opened. Shut. Dale muttered something vicious under his breath and ripped the packets back across the table. Good. I said, standing. Glad we're professional again. Where the hell do you think you're going? Dad asked. Home. I said, check my email later. I'm drafting the withdrawal of my spousal negotiation too. Claire wants the house? She can buy me out at market. No family discount. And Logan? Tell him the next time he wants to restructure something. He learns the difference between an LLC operating agreement and a fantasy football league. I left before Dad could gavel anything. Out in the hallway, my phone buzzed twice in my pocket. I didn't have to look to guess who. Mom called 3 minutes later while I was getting in the truck. I answered on Bluetooth just to hear how fast she'd pivot. Your father is livid, she said, skipping hello. He's not the only one who knows how to read a contract. Mom, you humiliated him in front of Victor and Marissa. Logan humiliated me in front of a steakhouse hostess. We're just scaling up. She exhaled. Sharp. Ethan, listen to me. Dale is talking about calling Grandma Hale. He says, if we invoke the family elders, we can pressure you into mediation. Mediation's fine. I said, pulling on to West Paces. As long as it's in front of a judge. Don't do that, she snapped, the first crack in the polished voice. Don't turn this into a war where there doesn't have to be one. Logan made a mistake. Claire made choices. But they're trying to include you. Ethan, they offered you ops. Advisory. I corrected. They offered me a leash and called it promotion. Because they love you, she said. Quieter. Even Logan. He feels terrible. He feels terrible and restructure my comp anyway. Great love story. She was quiet for a long block. Then, if you force this buyout, your father will cut you off the estate. I figured. I mean completely. Trust fund. The lake property. The voting shares Granddad left you outside the firm. He'll contestable provision if you sue. He can try. I said, Granddad's was ironclad. Victor already told me that. Back when I used to actually ask for advice instead of getting ambushed. Mom's voice cracked then. And that was the only thing that actually slowed me down. You're burning the bridge. Ethan, you keep walking. There's no coming back to Sunday dinners. No holidays. Your grandmother will never forgive me if I let this happen. I turned onto my street, parked, killed the engine. You're worried about Sunday dinners. I said, while Dad's in a conference room figuring out how to pay off Claire's realtor. That's the math you want me to swallow? Family is messy. She whispered. Then I'm done being the mess you all clean up with other people's money. I hung up. A text came through before the screen, even dimmed. Claire, Logan says you threatened the firm today. Is that true? I typed back once, deleted it, then sent the only thing that mattered. Tell Logan the firm is his problem now. My lawyer will be in touch about the house. She replied instantly. You're really doing this? I didn't answer. By the time I got inside, Dad had already emailed the entire executive list, stripping me of yard badge access, pending a cooling off period. The email landed at 11:07. Subject line, interim protocols. I forwarded it straight to Victor with one line. Call the vote or buy me out. Pick a lane. The read receipt pinged at 11:09. Then my phone rang again. Unknown Atlanta number. I answered, expecting Claire's sister. Or maybe Dale's wife playing peacemaker. It was my grandmother. Ethan, she said. No preamble. I just got off the phone with your father. He tells me you're being difficult. I raised him to value loyalty over pride. But I raised you to know better than to let a McCready rewrite your life. Get over here for lunch. And don't you dare hang up on me like you did your mother. Line went dead before I could say a word. Grandma Hale eats lunch at the Capital City Club 3 days a week and runs a family tighter than the bylaws ever could. She doesn't ask how you're doing. She tells you how you're doing. And you either confirm or you get written out of the will before dessert. I met her in the usual booth. She was already halfway through a gin and tonic, which meant she'd already spoken to Dale, Logan, Dad, and probably Claire by proxy as someone's assistant. Sit, she said, and don't lie to me, because I already have Victor on speed dial, and he respects me more than he respects your father. I sat. Good to see you too. Grandma, cut the charm. Your father called me crying. Richard Hale does not cry unless he's cornered. And apparently you cornered him with Article 9. She stirred her drink with a look that could freeze a port contract. What the hell are you playing at? Not playing. I said, Logan rewrote my comp structure to fund Claire's house. Dad signed off. They tried to strip my title Tuesday morning, like it was a clerical error. Logan is a fool, she said flatly. Claire is bored and transactional. Neither of those things is news. What's news is you turning a family spat into a securities threat. It stopped being a spat when they used the firm's retainer to negotiate against me. She waved a hand like she was swatting a fly. Paperwork. All of it. You marry young. It goes sideways. You settle up. You don't torch the logistics contracts because your feelings are hurt. My feelings aren't hurt. I said, my position is, they want me out of ops. They want Claire paid. And they want me to smile. So the McCreadys don't pull the Savannah credit line. Grandma set her glass down with a click. The McCreadys don't have a credit line without our name on it. And you know it. Dale's bluffing. But you, she jabbed a finger at me. You're acting like a petulant minority shareholder instead of a Hale. If you want Logan handled, I'll handle him. Dale answers to me on the trust override. Claire goes back to renting. You keep your title. You keep your dividends. And you apologize to your father for the boardroom stunt. I almost laughed. You want me to apologize so everyone keeps pretending Logan didn't crawl into my marriage? I want you to stop giving the press a reason to care about our internal HR. She snapped. Do you have any idea what the Atlanta Business Chronicle would do with a Hale McCready lawsuit right now? Your grandfather built this name, so it didn't have to be explained to bankers. You're explaining it to bankers. Maybe the name needs a little explaining. I said, starting with the fact that it doesn't cover up infidelity when it's convenient. She studied me for a long minute. The silence between us wasn't awkward. It was calculating. Finally, she leaned in. Ethan, sweetheart, you were always the smart one. But smart gets you exactly nowhere if you don't know when to take the win off the table. I will make Logan apologize to you privately. Off the books. Claire signs a standard 50-50. No spousal. No house equity. In exchange, you withdraw your 9 for notice by 5 o'clock today. And if I don't, then I endorse Richard's petition to contest the grandfather clause in your personal trust. You don't lose the shares yet, but I will freeze your distributions until you're 35. And trust me, your father will bear your badge access. So deep you'll be lucky to get a vendor pass to your own loading dock. I leaned back. You'd really freeze my income to protect Dale's son? I'd freeze your income to protect the family from you, she said, not unkindly. Different thing. My phone buzzed on the table. Mom, Grandma says you're having lunch. Please just agree to the reset. We can have Sunday dinner like normal. I looked at Grandma. Sunday dinner. Like normal, she confirmed. Claire's going to be there, isn't she? Her mouth tightened. Logan mentioned maybe stopping by after church. I stood up, sliding my phone into my pocket. Then there is no reset. Grandma's eyes narrowed. Don't be stupid. Ethan, I'm not being stupid. I'm withdrawing the 9. For notice. She relaxed a fraction. Good boy. I'm withdrawing it. I kept going. Because I'm resigning from the firm entirely. Effective end of month. No advisory role. No liquidity payout. No Article 9 drama. Clean separation. I'll file the notice with Victor this afternoon. The color drained out of her face, which was a trick considering how much makeup she wore for lunch. You cannot quit. You don't have an exit clause without board consent. I have a founder's right to divest my personal consulting arm. I said, Victor already confirmed it when Dad tried to demote me. I take my client book, strategic accounts, like Logan's little packet said, and I walk. You want to contest it? Swim me. But I won't be an employee of Hale McCready by September. You walk out that door, she said, voice dropping to a rasp. And I don't just freeze your trust. I zero it. I'll have Richard draft a public statement saying you left due to personal conduct issues. Claire will own the narrative before the ink dries. Let her. I said, she's good at spin. I left before the gin hit the table again. By 2 o'clock, Victor emailed me a stunned one-liner. Resignation letter received. Your father wants a call before we process. I didn't call. Mom called. Then Dad. Then Claire, which was rich. I answered Claire's, just to see how fast the script changed. Ethan, Logan just got a notification from Victor. She said, no hello there. Either. Did you actually quit? I actually quit. Are you insane? You just handed Logan the entire ops division on a silver platter. I handed him a title. I said, he still doesn't know how to read APL. You're doing this to punish me. I'm doing this so I don't have to watch you play daughter-in-law to my grandmother while you hold Logan's hand at Sunday dinner. She scoffed. You act like I planned this. Like I woke up and decided to ruin your life for fun. You didn't plan it. You just took the easier offer when mine got complicated. That's worse. Actually, Logan loves me, she said. Quiet, defensive. Logan loves the leverage. I said, ask him what happens to your allowance when the Savannah expansion dies, because I'm not brokering the port contract anymore. She went silent. Yeah, I said, thought so. Have a nice life. Claire, Dad called again at 4. I answered that one too. Get to the house. He said, not angry. Wipe clean. That was worse. I'm not coming over. Your mother is crying. Your grandmother is threatening to rewrite her will tonight. You will get to this house and sit at the table and retract your resignation, or I swear to God, Ethan, you will not recognize a version of this family that exists tomorrow. Recognize it for me. I said, because I don't recognize the one that exists today. Click. At 6, the retaliation started landing. First, a formal email from HR, Hale McCready HR, not mine anymore, revoking my company card and disabling my email alias. Standard. Second, a text from Dale. Told you pride was expensive. Kid, enjoy the unemployment. Third, a voicemail from Mom. And this one broke the pattern. She wasn't crying. She was furious. You hung up on your father. You embarrassed your grandmother in front of the club staff. Do you know she had to explain why you walked out? She told people you had a migraine. Ethan, because she's still trying to protect you. But you don't want protection. Apparently, you want to be a martyr. Fine, be one. But don't call me when you realize Logan and Dale are already moving the yard fleet under a new DBA, so your non-compete doesn't even matter. They're done playing nice. So am I. I sat in the quiet for a minute, pulled up my contacts, scrolled past Mom, past Victor, past Logan, all the way down to Marcus Bell. Marcus used to run dispatch before he spun off his own regional hauling outfit 2 years back. We talked about partnering more formally once the Savannah port deal closed. I'd held off because of the family name, not holding off anymore. I hit call. Marcus picked up on the second ring. Ethan, didn't think I'd hear from you till the Q3 numbers dropped. Marcus, you still looking for a majority partner on the Savannah bid? A pause. Depends. Last I heard, you were locked into Hale McCready exclusive. Not locked in anymore. I said, I resigned today. Clean. If you want to file a joint bid under Bell Hill Logistics, I've got the port contacts and the union relationships. We can have a shell corp ready by Monday. Marcus let out a low whistle. Christ, Dale and Richard finally push you out? They didn't push. I said, I opened the door myself. Ballsy, Marcus said. Then, more carefully, your dad's going to view this as a raid. Ethan, blood is blood with those guys. They made their choice on who counts as blood. I said, I'm just matching their energy. Marcus laughed once. Dark. All right, send me the draft MOU tonight. But fair warning, if you go belling with your old man, he's going to try to kneecap your yard access to the Terminal Association. You'll need a new dispatch badge by Wednesday. Already taken care of. I lied. It wasn't, but it would be. I hung up, opened my email, and fired off a short note to Victor. CC, Richard Hale, Dale McCready. Per our conversation, effective immediately, I am exercising my right to divest consulting interests under Section 4. 2. Expect my personal effects to be collected from the office Friday. Kindly remove my name from the yard roster before the board circulates the weekend memo. I hit send. Then I blocked Claire. Then Logan. Then Dale. Mom called one more time at 8. I watched the screen ring until it rolled to voicemail. She didn't leave one. Instead, Dad texted, You think walking makes you free? It just makes you irrelevant. We'll have the new entity filed by Monday. Good luck explaining to Grandma why the Hale name is on a startup nobody asked for. I typed back once. Deleted the anger. Typed again. The Hale name's worth protecting. You're the one auctioning it off to cover Claire's mortgage. I'll build something that doesn't need a cover-up. 10 minutes later, a notification from my banking app. Alert. Pending transfer from HM Family Distributions. Currently under administrative review. There it was. The economic tap shut off. I poured a real drink this time, sat at the kitchen counter, and watched the unread group thread from the extended family blow up. Aunts asking if the rumor about me leaving was true. Cousins sending half-hearted hope y'all work it out texts that felt like obituaries. Grandma's final move of the night came via email, copied to the whole immediate side. Ethan, darling, we'll discuss the trust freeze in person Sunday. Wear a jacket. We raise you better. I close the laptop. Sunday used to mean pot roast and passive-aggressive grace. Now it was going to be a goddamn execution. Let them file the DBA. Let them freeze the distributions. They forgot one thing. I learned how to read the contract from Granddad, not from them. And I'd spent 3 years quietly keeping the port relationship in my personal inbox, not the firm CRM. They wanted irrelevance. I was about to give them competition. Sunday rolled around and I wore the jacket, just like Grandma asked. Navy blazer. No, dear. If they wanted theater. I dressed the part without playing obedient. The house on Habersham was already full when I pulled up. Dale's truck out front. Logan's BMW tucked behind it. Claire's Audi, my Audi, technically, still on the divorce schedule, parked like she paid the property taxes. Mom opened the door before I knocked. She looked like she hadn't slept since Wednesday. He's in the study with Dale and Logan. Grandma's setting the table. Ethan, please, just listen before you speak this time. I'll listen, I said, stepping past her. Doesn't mean I'll agree. Dad was at his desk with 3 printed copies of something labeled cease and desist preliminary draft. He didn't look up when I walked in. Logan did, grinning like he'd already won something. Gentlemen, I said. Dad finally lifted his head. You're late. Traffic on Peachtree's a nightmare. I said, nodding at the papers. Let me guess. You drafted ACD because I sent an MOU to Marcus Bell? Dale stood first. We didn't draft it yet. We're giving you 24 hours to kill the Bell partnership before we file with the Terminal Association and flag your non-compete. Non-compete doesn't cover a joint venture with an existing carrier. I said, sitting without being asked. Marcus is already licensed at Garden City. I'm not poaching the yard. Dale, I'm servicing the account you lost leverage over when I resigned. Logan laughed, short and bitter. You sound like a paralegal. None of this changes the fact that you're using Hale relationships to undercut Hale McCready. Hale relationships. I repeated. Right. Funny phrase. Considering the port contract, Terminal 7, was negotiated under my personal login with the state DOT. It's not an asset of the firm. It never was. Check the Master Services Agreement. Page 2, Section B. Personal Services Carve-Out. Dad's pen stopped moving. He knew exactly what page I was talking about. You didn't, Logan said. I did. I said, Port Authority already accepted the Bell Hill intent to bid Friday afternoon. You'll get the formal notice from Savannah tomorrow morning. Grandma swept into the study then, wine glass in hand, apron over a dress that cost more than most people's cars. She took one look at Dad's face and knew the game had tilted. Well, she said to Dale, you said you had him contained. He went behind our backs to Marcus. Dale bit out, the little shit is trying to steal the Savannah lane. Grandma turned to me, eyes bright and cold. You arrogant boy. You think the Port Authority gives a damn whose name is on the carve-out? They do business with the firm's bonding capacity, not your signature. They do business with the guy who got their cold storage variants approved last spring. I said, which, fun fact, I also handled personally so Hale McCready wouldn't have to pay the outside permitting fee. State DOT has my cell, not yours. They already returned Marcus's call. She set her wine down hard. I will call the commissioner myself. Go ahead. I said, he owes me a favor for fixing the overflow routing during the strike. Ask him who he's returning emails from these days. Dad shoved his chair back. Enough posturing. Ethan, you're done. I'm instructing Victor to file the non-compete injunction first thing Monday. You'll be tied up in discovery for a year. You'll bleed legal fees until you fold. You'll also freeze out the only person who knows how to transition the yard dispatch software. I said, pull the injunction, and I'll give you 30 days of transition consulting at cost. Keep threatening me. And I delete the server migration notes and wish you luck explaining the legacy code to Logan. Logan's face flushed. Don't talk about me like I'm incompetent. Then stop proving it. I said. Mom appeared in the doorway, clutching a serving spoon. Can we please just eat? Your grandmother made the prime rib. We're not eating. Grandma said, without looking at her, we're fixing a breach. No, Mom said, louder than I'd heard her in years. We are eating, because Claire drove 3 hours from the lake to be here, and I am tired of everyone treating this house like a deposition. Claire stepped into the room, behind Mom, arms crossed. She looked at the tension, then at me. Ethan, seriously? You're really dragging the port deal into a family fight? You're in a family fight? I asked. I thought you were just here for the prime rib and the free legal retainer. Claire flinched. Logan put a hand on her back, which was the single dumbest thing he could have done in front of Grandma. Grandma pointed at Logan. Take your hand off her in my study. You're not even technically kin yet, and you're already the loudest voice in the room. Dale bristled. Logan was trying to keep things civil. Civil ended when you moved Claire into McCready guest cabin and billed the firm for the gas. I said, we're way past civil. Dad pinched the bridge of his nose. Ethan, withdraw the bell bid. Tonight, I'll reinstate your distributions. We wipe the org chart nonsense. And Claire agrees to a standard 50-50 without spousal. We walk out of this room whole. You keep saying whole. I said, but your definition of whole is me swallowing betrayal and letting Logan run my career into the ground. Because it's temporary. Dad snapped. Everything is temporary if you just shut up and trust your family. You don't mean family. I said, you mean obedience. Silence. The kind that usually meant Dad was about to swing the gavel again, metaphorically or otherwise. Instead, Claire spoke, soft, calculated. Logan and I are engaged. Ethan, the room didn't breathe. Excuse me? Mom said. Claire didn't look at Logan. She kept her eyes on me. We were going to tell you privately. But since we're all being honest, Logan asked me last night. We're making it official. So the house, the retainer, all of it, it's not adultery anymore. It's just a future you're not part of. I should have felt something shatter. Honestly, I mostly felt tired. Congratulations. I said, really, save me a +1 slot on the invite, so I could decline it properly. Logan smirked. Told you he's all bark. Bark's over. I said, pulling an envelope out of my inner pocket. I dropped it on Dad's desk. Divorce waiver. Signed by me, waiving any claim to Claire's future marital assets with whoever she picks. In exchange, the Covington equity gets listed for sale Tuesday morning. Proceeds split 70-30 my way for the renovation costs I actually paid for. Take it or don't. Either way. Claire's right. She's not my problem anymore. Dad stared at the envelope. You're really signing it now? I'm signing it. So I don't have to talk about her ever again. I said. Grandma finally picked up the wine again. Took a long sip. Well, that's something. She looked at Claire. Then Logan. Then Dad. You've made a mess of this. Richard, you let a McCready boy propose to the ex before the ink dried, and now the whole city's going to smell blood. The city won't smell a thing if Ethan drops the bell bid. Dale insisted. I stood. Bell Hale Logistics is already incorporated in Delaware. EIN issued Friday. Branding goes live Wednesday. You want to sue? Serve Marcus. I'll see you in Chatham County. You walk out that door. Dad said, voice shaking now. And Grandma's not bluffing about the trust. I'll have Victor petition probate by noon tomorrow. Petition away. I said, Granddad left me the dispatch IP separate from the trust. You freeze the distributions. I license the IP to Marcus exclusively. Hale McCready loses the routing algorithm by October 1st. You remember the algorithm. Dad? The one that saved us $2 million in deadhead miles last year? Yeah, that one. Dale went white. Logan actually swore under his breath. Mom stepped between me and the desk. Hands up, Ethan. Please. You're killing your father in front of his partners. Have some decency. Decency. I said, softer this time because it was her. Mom. They used you to deliver ultimatums all week. They used Grandma to threaten me at lunch. They invited my ex-wife's new fiancé to Sunday dinner to humiliate me in front of the people who raised me. Decency checked out Tuesday at O'Malley's. She started to cry, quiet, furious tears. You're choosing a startup over your own mother. I'm choosing not to be managed by people who lie to me. I said. I turned to leave. Grandma's voice stopped me at the hall. Ethan, I looked back. You win the port bid, she said, almost admiring. And I'll back your play publicly just to spite Dale. But if you lose, you come crawling back here. And I won't let you forget it. I won't lose. I said, good, she said. Then you and I will finally see which Hales are made of glass. I walked out past the dining room, past the untouched prime rib, past Claire and Logan pretending they weren't listening to the study implode. Out on the porch, my phone buzzed. Marcus. Just got the nod from the Port Authority. We're lead bidders for Terminal 7. Welcome to the other side. Partner. I thumb back. Send the operating docs tonight. We go live Wednesday. Then a second text. From a number I didn't recognize. Probably one of the aunts. Or Dad's sister. Turned out to be Claire. You didn't have to make us the villain to prove a point. Logan loves me. Let it go. I blocked the number, got in the truck, and drove straight past the Habersham gates without looking back. The distributions would be gone by morning. The non-compete suit would land by noon Monday. Logan would probably leak something petty to the Chronicle by the weekend. None of it mattered. For the first time in a month, I wasn't waiting for someone else's agenda to drop into my inbox. I was writing my own. Victor filed injunction Monday at 11:04. Standard non-compete nonsense. Drafted like Hale McCready still owned the air I breathed. By Tuesday afternoon, Marcus's counsel had it tossed on jurisdictional grounds. Delaware entity. Georgia operations. Savannah contract predating my resignation. Dale spent the rest of the week screaming into voicemails I didn't answer. By Friday, the Atlanta Business Chronicle picked up the port bid quietly. No family drama attached. Just a two-line mention. Bell Hale Logistics awarded preferred negotiations for Terminal 7 cold storage expansion. Dad lasted 6 days after that. He called me himself on Saturday morning. No secretary. No Grandma Bouffet. We need to talk, he said. Talk, I said, pouring coffee. A long inhale. The board wants to settle. Marissa convinced Dale that fighting you on the algorithm is a losing PR battle. Victor agrees. We'll lift the trust freeze if you license the routing IP back to us at market rate. Market rate. I repeated. Interesting wording for something you tried to seize for free last Sunday. Ethan, don't. Just don't be cute. I'm offering a path back in. Back in, I said. To what? Another org chart ambush when Logan needs a new truck? Silence. Then, flat. Logan stepping down from ops. That stopped me. Come again? Dale and I agreed. Logan stays on biz dev. Claire stays out of the firm entirely. No retainer. No house equity. We'll unwind the personal entanglements if it means you stop torching the brand. I set the mug down. You're not doing this because it's right. You're doing it because the port bid embarrassed you. Does it matter? Dad snapped. I am handing you the win. Take it. Come back Monday. We redo the title correctly. You keep your shares. Everyone saves face. Save face for who? I asked. You, Mom, Logan and Claire? For the family, he said, like it was a magic word that still worked. You keep saying that word. I said, and every time you say it, you mean me. Come back. Sign the IP over. Let Logan keep a paycheck. Pretend Claire was just a misunderstanding. I'm done. Dad. Done how? His voice cracked just enough to remind me he was 61. Not a gavel. Done. I said, IP license stays exclusive to Bell Hale. I'm not rejoining the firm. I'll buy out whatever Granddad left me at fair market and roll it into the new company. You want peace? Stop suing me and let the lawyers draw up the separation of the voting trust. He let out a breath like he'd been punched. You're really walking away from your name. I'm walking away from a version of it you rented out. I said, If Grandma wants to play hardball on the inheritance, tell her I'll see her in probate. I'm not negotiating my dignity for a dividend check. He hung up on me. First time in my life he'd ever done that. Grandma called an hour later. No yelling, just a dry, almost amused tone. Your father is sulking like a teenager. Dale's threatening to pull the Savannah line entirely out of spite, which is adorable since you already have it. You saw the Chronicle piece. I said, I saw it, and I spoke to Marissa. You're going to out-earn the firm inside 18 months if you keep Marcus close. That the threat or the compliment? The observation. She said, I'm endorsing the trust petition. Richard won't like it, but he won't fight me. You get the lake property free and clear. I'll release the granddad shares directly to you, not the firm, not the trust, on one condition. Name it. You stop talking to the press about Logan. No digs, no leaks, no sources familiar with the matter. And like a hail, not a reality show, I exhaled. Deal. She paused. You hurt your mother. Ethan. She picked a side before I even filed. I said, she picks peace. Grandma corrected. Same thing your father does. You pick truth. Truth sharper. Just remember, when she calls you cry in a month because your father won't speak to her about the will. Don't be cruel. She's weak, not evil. It was the closest thing to empathy I'd gotten from that house in a decade. I'll be civil. I said, good boy, she said, and actually sounded like she meant it this time. Victor will send the petition docs Tuesday. Don't make me regret bypassing your father. Mom was the last call. Late Sunday night, after the dust had settled and the separation papers were queued up for Claire's attorney to sign. Grandma told me you're dissolving everything, she said. No tears now, just exhaustion. Yeah, I said. I keep thinking about Tuesday at O'Malley's. She said, how mad I was that you made a scene, and how right you were that we asked you to swallow it. I didn't feel the silence. She needed to say it without me coaching her through it. Claire called me yesterday. Mom went on. Asked if I'd help her pick out china for the wedding. I told her no. That got my attention. You did? I told her I wasn't interested in watching my son build something from scratch, while I played mother-in-law to the woman who burned it down. Dale was furious. Your father didn't say much. But he didn't defend her. Either. Small mercies. I said, don't be sarcastic. She said, but there was no bite. I'm calling to tell you I won't be at Sunday dinners anymore. Not while Claire and Logan are invited. Your father can have his loyalty parade without me. You divorcing him too? I asked, half joking. She didn't laugh. Not yet, but I'm done pretending the Hales are above a little honesty. We sat in the quiet for a minute. Then she said, almost hesitant, will you have dinner with me? Just us. Somewhere neutral. No ritane. No bylaws. Thursday. I said, my treat. She cried a little then, but hung up before it got messy. Monday morning. Claire signed the waiver. No drama. No text. Just a PDF stamped executed. Tuesday. Victor sent a petition. My name officially severed from Hale McCready's cap table. Bell Hale Logistics went live at 9 a.m. With a one-paragraph press release Marcus wrote, and I barely edited. New regional carrier focused on port-adjacent cold chain efficiency. Wednesday. Logan texted me from a burner. Dad says we lost the port. Congrats. I guess. Claire says you were always going to leave anyway. I didn't reply. Blocked the number. Thursday. Mom and I met at a hole-in-the-wall barbecue joint off North Side. She asked how the new dispatch software was bedding in. I told her the truth, better than expected. Harder without the old yard crew. She asked if I missed a family name on the trucks. I told her the Bell Hale. Logo looked fine once you stopped caring what Habersham thought of you. Friday. Dad sent a single email. No greeting. No sign-off. Trust petition recorded. Routing IP excluded per our agreement. Best of luck. I replied with one word. Acknowledged. No CC. No grandma. No Victor. Just closed. It's been 3 weeks since I last drove past the old yard. Marcus says I'll have to go back eventually to negotiate a subcontractor rate with Hale McCready. They still own the better bonding capacity for oversized loads. That would be a fun meeting. Logan will probably be there. And Claire will definitely be a topic someone tries not to mention. But when I picture it, I don't feel the tightness in my chest I had walking into O'Malley's that first night. The house in Covington closes escrow Monday. Mom says she's taking a pottery class to fill the Sundays. Grandma sent a fruit basket to the new office with a note that just read, "Don't get complacent." Dad hasn't called since the email. Maybe he will in 6 months when the numbers make ignoring me impossible. Maybe he won't. Either way, the door's not locked from my side anymore. My phone buzzed earlier. Marcus, confirming our first cold storage run, clears the terminal gates at 0600 tomorrow. I texted back, "See you at the yard." Not our yard, just the yard. Feels better than it should. End of story.